Right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 4:15, and I'd like to call to order the April 25th meeting of the Library Board. I will first determine that we do have a quorum. So as I read your name, please say that you are here and that you received your materials. Alan?
Here, I got my materials.
Thank you. Anne?
I'm here, I have my material.
John?
I'm here and I have my materials.
And I am also here and I have my materials. Thank you. With that, you all received copies of the board packet, and I would entertain a motion to approve the library board minutes from the March 28th meeting.
I would so move.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections, amendments? Hearing none, I will call for approval. Alan?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I also approve. With that, we will move to the director's report. Trish?
Thank you. Okay, we have a trend that we're seeing in our door count that we're very happy to see. The numbers have been going up since the beginning of this year and steadily climbing to the last week's number of 4,105. That's up by over 1,500 from the beginning of the year per week. It could be the weather's getting better. It could be we're out of the COVID problem we were in at the beginning of the year. I don't know. We thought maybe the spring break week was the reason, but then it kept going after spring break. So it's got to be something else. And the cafe, the hot topic of the day, is doing well. And Kelly got some numbers for us. For the first 2 weeks of April, it did about $2,000 in sales. Of course, there are startup costs along with that, so we're not showing a profit just yet. We've been increasing our card numbers, and I think 843 new cards were made in March. The guest cards to replace the reciprocal patrons free card was, those are up. And we've had 65 of those that as of last count. The majority of them are being done online, which is so convenient for the patron to renew or pay their card for the next year that way instead of coming in.
So this is the charge, the $50 charge?
Mhm.
Excellent, good.
So how many you said we had?
65.
of those, but that was over a week ago. There's probably been more since. Our tax season is over. The tax assistance we give to the patrons resulted in 286 returns done by the Notre Dame tax preparers and a total of 450 done by the VITA tax preparers. 207 of those VITA returns were done by our own staff members. There are 5 of them, a manager, a couple other staff, and Rana. Rana probably knows exactly how many she did too. of those 207, you probably did what? You don't know.
Well, I did 43, but then I quality reviewed 46.
She got promoted this year to be a quality reviewer, which means you check the others' work, right?
Right.
Okay.
So around 90 altogether.
A few of our branches will be polling places next week for the primary. I'm thinking it was Center was one of them. Do you remember? So that's we're doing our civic duty there. And of course, we're running to the end of April, so the end of our one book month, which was Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson this year. And we have a speaker tonight, Anthony Ray Hinton, who was one of the exonerated prisoners. From the
That's in an overflow room and everything, right?
right, the auditorium is fully booked, and I think there's still room in the ballroom though for the.
A little bit. Yeah, squeeze a few more people.
Mhm. We are, well, Arcos is the local architect on our project is receiving an award in May from the local Michiana Builders Association. It's the Excellence in Construction Award for Additions and Renovations. So that's for the main library project. And all of you, if you came in through the doors to this building today, you saw them looking boarded up. That's just, as they're building the doors, there's wood in place where the glass will be. So there will be glass panels in all those
But
spaces.
that door's open? I came
Yes.
through studio. Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
know. It's gonna be difficult for people tonight to understand how to come in, because all three of those doors look like that on this building. We're still waiting for the fabric wrapped panels in the auditorium, the ballroom, and the Buter Kernan Hall. But today we have plants in the courtyard, so we have a small victory today. And leading to the courtyard, speaking of the courtyard, the ribbon cutting will be May 20th at 11 a.m. Right, Jenny?
Yes, and you all will receive invitation soon.
That's Friday?
Yes. Yep, so that's the courtyard and the community learning center.
Right. And if it's a nice day, we'll be outside.
Yes.
And what time will it be?
11 a.m.
I don't know, Trish, if you're gonna mention, the next day is Science Alive when we reschedule the vendor portion of that. So it'll be a little smaller Science Alive, but still an opportunity to do it outdoors. And we're also gonna be inviting families to come out and spend time in the courtyard. That's it.
So the courtyard will be open by then, or does it just open the 20th?
It's gonna be sometime between now and then.
We're hoping for the 3rd.
Yeah. They need 48 hours without rain to do the last thing they need to do.
Okay.
So just hope for 48 hours
So
without.
it's
No, it wasn't this year. That's all.
Oh, okay. Any questions for Trish?
Move we approve the director's report.
Okay, with no further questions, I will call for the vote. Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Christine. Do we usually include the stats in that?
We usually include the stats with that.
That's Jenny's part, sorry. Jenny.
Okay, back up. We've
Back
already
up.
approved this, but Jenny's going to talk
Well,
about the
actually,
stats.
It's very brief this time, and the one thing I want to mention is that the stats do look a little bit different than normal in that there's a few pages missing, and that's due to the fact that we just had some staff transition. So the staff member who had been working on the reports moved on, and so thanks to the communications team for kind of banding together and getting all of the stats pulled together as much as they could. There's a few graphs missing that I will make sure to have sent on to you. And also the raw data will get sent out to you as soon as that's finished. But she got most of it done, and we learned just how much data there actually is that the library collects. The one thing Trish mentioned, all of the increases that we're seeing, and that's across the board: circulation, gate count, card holder sign up, computer usage, Wi-Fi, and even encouragingly at the branches, we're seeing increases both in CERF and in gate count. Gate count especially is up everywhere, all locations. So I think it's just that time of year when people are coming back to the library, or that season in time when people are coming back to the library.
Or
And-
the positive press we're getting for the main branch is generalizing, so
Mhm.
that's nice.
Yep. The other thing that this is a report we're going to be adding into the stats in the future, but I also wanted to give you an insight into how this building is doing. So the CLC has seen, and this is year to date so far, 71 meeting room reservations so far in this space. Largely those have been nonprofits, which is wonderful because we know that we're meeting a need in the community. And then across the branches, we've had 157 reservations through this point in the year. So, and every branch has had a reservation at least once a month. So that includes a place like Lakeville, which is much smaller, obviously, but we're seeing meeting room use at all our locations. And obviously it's more than it was last year, but it's very encouraging to see this much use in this short time. So that's all.
Thank
Fast
you.
forward.
And particularly with respect to this space, are we seeing, or are there any, I mean, I'm sure we're getting lots of oohs and ahs, but are there any problems or things you're hearing, or Have you noticed anything?
There are small, like, I said, the clocks in the room.
Mm-hmm.
There, I think we're learning, we're viewing them more as like moments to learn and find out how the community could benefit from the space a little bit more. And Lisa and her team collect all of those, and once a month we sit down and we review everything, if there's any hiccups that happen or any tweaks that we need to make. But there hasn't been anything significant. For the most part, it's been, we've had people give hugs for how amazing the space has been and how accommodating it is. So I think it's been overwhelmingly positive. And I would say the increase in gate count is probably driven largely by the number of groups that are coming into this space. We've had this week alone, was it this week?
Last week.
Last week, Food for Thought Breakfast
Mhm.
had, 150 community members and community stakeholders here in this building, and that was just in 1 hour. So I think that's
So
encouraging.
I'm curious, I mean, gate count, I assume would come through this side is literally that, but how is gate count, is there something that when I pass through, because I always come in this door over here,
We're counting.
so there's something there that's.
We have more than one gate counter now. We have,
I-
it's
I-
like we have more than
No,
one door.
I didn't have noticed when I was walking through, or maybe there is something there now.
This is probably not relevant, except that it's a hiccup for me. Have we considered numbering the doors? Because guessing which door to come in is always, as I said, I came through Studio 342 or whatever it was today because that's the nearest place that I parked.
Yeah,
But
that could be something it's one of those things, learning how to direct people to our spaces, especially with the courtyard not being open. So we have to find creative ways to get people to where they need to be. And that could be a solution to that.
yeah, I bring that from the school corporation.
Yeah,
because
they number all their.
They number all the doors because if there's an emergency, you want to know, it's not the door between the two places. You want to know what door.
I thought that was a Homeland Security or something. I hate to say it, but there are, synagogues, churches, schools, universities, they number the doors so that they can communicate. I mean, I'm not sure. I think there's a protocol to what to do, where you put them
We do have Homeland Security involved, but mostly for elevators.
in. But they
Right,
never
and-
mention anything about number of doors.
No.
No, and the fire marshal didn't either. I brought it up with them.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
I know that first responders have to know which door to go through. And if something happens in the community learning center and they come through the front door on Main Street. Yeah, the gun check it. Okay, I think we've beat that person. Okay. Those of you who motioned and accepted the director's report, can we include the statistics with that? Yes, okay, good. All right. Library bill list.
Kelly?
So this month, we're paying $1,517,721 in bills. 208,545 of that was for Sierra, one of our databases that we paid the entire year. It used to be a monthly, so that is a portion of that. We're only $56,000 in construction expenses for this month. The payoff was not approved and received in time to process for this, so that will be on, you'll see 2 payouts on next month. Any questions?
I have none. Do I hear a motion to approve the library bill list?
Second.
Any questions, any further questions or comments or discussion? Hearing none. Alan, Anne, John,
Aye.
and I also approve. I noticed that there wasn't a specific section for gifts this month, but I do know that Lisa did send out a request for contributions. Have we heard anything back from that?
Yes, I've been processing those the last, today mostly. but,
Okay.
There were 35 that I processed today. And
Okay.
I'm still counting.
Okay,
Good.
good, excellent. Well, we look forward to those $1,000 gifts coming in. That will be good. All right, thank you very much. Personnel changes, Trish.
The big change that resulted from the manager at Francis Branch retiring was that some managerial positions have moved around. We have, starting today, the new manager of the Youth Services Department is Jill Williams. She was the manager at LaSalle. And now the new manager at LaSalle is Karen Mann, who was the manager at Western Branch. So we hired to be the manager at Western, the assistant manager there, Leah Steinheiser, and those all took effect today. Kara has many others on her HR change list. Are there any others, Kara, that we should mention?
I don't think there are any notable.
All right.
Okay, well, with that, do I have a motion to approve the personnel changes?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, hearing none. Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you. There were no special library committee meetings held in the last month, so there are no reports of special library board committee meetings. To my knowledge, that's 7. 8, to my knowledge, there is no unfinished business to report. And with that, we can move into new business. Hi, Antonia, nice to see you. We'll start with the change orders for the main library projects.
Okay, great. It's a pleasure seeing you as well. For golf, we have one change for the roller shade window pockets for $1,585. For Herman and Getz, we have 3 changes. These were previously approved for time and material work. This is for electrical modifications, stage AV boxes, the second floor event space floor boxes, and a coordination item between the electrical and millwork trade for $5,623. Larson Danielson, there was one cost for reconciling their allowances, and we also had a Bully and Andrews directed general trades item for $7,915. Larson Danielson for the Laylight clarifications and direct electrical modifications, that resulted in a cost of $15,747. And Robert Henry had a cost for the bike loops at the concrete bike loops, or the concrete at the bike loops for $454 for an overall change request of $31,324.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'll summarize those. We have an increase for golf of $1,585. Herman and Getz, an increase of $5,623. Larson Danielson, $7,915. Larson Danielson Millwork, $15,747. And Robert Henry Corporation, $454 for a total change of $31,324. Do I hear a motion to approve the change orders?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you very much. Next, we'll talk about the request for fees for additional services by the architectural team and the mechanical engineer. Who will talk about that? Trish?
Yeah. The Ramsey request is for work starting in April. They originally had in the past asked you for additional fees in December, which they have finished billing those at the end of March. So the only work still being done are bi-weekly meetings. There's some coordination with the mechanical engineer that they're still performing, and waiting for the rest of the project to be finished. So seeing that things are moving along. So this is for, and the remaining punch they have to do. They're going to track it with a cap of $40,000 for their hourly services to be invoiced at cost.
And
Oh, and the other one, oh, that's right, they're combined in the same one, sorry. The mechanical engineers are also asking for additional fees for a lump sum cost to date of $13,200 for the work they've done on the discussions we're having with the mechanical contractor we've had some non-conforming work and some work that we're not sure has been finished. So this is an ongoing process. There's open field items that they are performing for $8,000 with these are all caps now. Hourly services cap of $8,000 for that. And then site visit that they'll be performing at the library for $10,200 and a cap again. And then the meeting time that they spend preparing for the meetings and attending the meetings of $4,800 for a total of $36,200. So combined between the architect and the engineer, it's $76,200 more dollars to keep finishing the project.
keep finishing. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, are there questions about this?
Okay, are we surprised by
Oh,
this?
that was one question, yes.
No.
Okay, that's was the question. I mean, I know that sometimes these things drag out like this anyway, and you
Right.
don't have any control over it.
No,
At
we
the
don't.
end,
And I know Terry is attending as an observer and not a member, but his question would be, do we have the money for this? Would that be your question, Terry?
Yeah, pretty close. I'm wondering if this is getting us deeper into the cost overrun territory. And to your question, yes, is it covered?
Kelly says yes.
Yes.
And Deb expected this to happen. She was waiting for this before she left, and it just didn't happen to come then.
So I'm not sure if this is the time, but maybe it is. I think Deb intimated last month that there was some significant, I think you mentioned mechanical, but can you all give, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I kind of heard a little bit just because I asked it. I'm wondering if this would be an appropriate time for you all to give us like just a little synopsis as to what's actually going on with mechanical and where we are with that, because it's been 4 more weeks since we had the last.
The mechanical engineers came in January and performed their punch list, which is their walk around and looking for things that are not correct. And they produced a document with about 700 items in it. The building was not completed in January. The mechanical portions were not fully done at the beginning of the month, even though we opened the building on the 14th, right, Jenny? I think they came on the 6th. So they haven't been back since. So they're working off of this list saying, we can't sign off on the building because these things are still existing. But it took Bully and Andrews a little bit of time to go through the list and take photos of some of these items and share it with the mechanical engineer. So we're knocking things off the list. The list is getting shorter. I'm looking at Sarah because she sits in these meetings with me, with the contractor and the architect and the engineer. So anyway, now we're having meetings just with the mechanical engineer and the contractor and the architects. And that's what these additional costs are for, some of them, these meetings. And the mechanical contractor is coming and taking care of things and has done quite a bit of work, but there are some places where the engineer says they didn't do it correctly, and that's the non-conforming part. So they're making them redo some things.
And they are, and so, and they are, but they are stepping up to. the
Yes, they are responding. They have been right from the beginning as soon as we reached out to them about this. So it'll take a little time.
But are we incurring additional costs because we're having to have these people put it through and are they gonna reimburse us for these? Or is it possible to get some of these?
That's a
over
question I don't know. We definitely are incurring more costs because of this.
Because of the fact that there's 700 things that they didn't do right.
Well, not all that they didn't do right, and that now we can't say that they are not all done either. It's just that the engineer hasn't come back to say, yes, that's done. So we want to get it completed before we have the engineer come back, because then that is another cost to us to have them come a second time or a third time. So I don't know if that's ever done, if you can get money back for that overage type of work when it's based on one particular contractor's problem completing the work correctly. Yeah, I know. Jim doesn't want, he doesn't, I think Deb looped you in a little bit about this too. So yeah, we haven't asked Jim to go any further than what he did do so far, which gave some advice to Deb before she left. But we're trying not to have as many meetings. We're trying for them to be more prepared in advance of the meetings so that the meetings are more productive. That's hard for some of these guys who work in the field. And we're doing these all on Zoom, right? Because the architects in New York, Mishawaka, the engineers in Indianapolis, we're here. And the contractors from Gary, right? Is that where MCI? Somewhere in the region. Anyway, showing their drawings on Zoom, sharing their screen. It's not everybody's first language. So.
Well, there's a difference between paying for the consultants to evaluate whether it's done and paying the actual workers for what they haven't done. I mean, those are.
We're done wrong.
Or done incorrectly, yes.
Right, and they haven't been completely.
Well, I mean, to the extent it's helpful for you, I mean, you could let somebody know that the board is really upset, and the board is saying, no, we really shouldn't be paying for this. And that we really, from our perspective, this was done, it should have been done right to begin with. If it's not being done, we don't understand why we're being asked to have all these additional overruns, because and to us, that to the extent that we're having additional costs because of that they ought to be stepping up to plate, and they need to come prepared because if not, it's not right to the taxpayers and the citizens. Because we're taking money that we could be using productively for the community and for everything else, and resources. We're having to take that and everything else, and that's just not right. And they need to, so it's just not acceptable. And we're stewards of the community. It's not our own money. We can't do it.
I would think the general contractor would have some responsibility to coordinate this sort of thing, don't they?
The
I mean,
contract with
Pardon me?
Bully and Andrews,
Yes.
is an advisor and not as manager.
Huh.
Because that was the way the law was written for Indiana before we started the project. So I'm not sure how much they can do to make somebody do the work, without charging us more for the extra services.
But if we're paying Bully and Andrews to oversight to check that because they didn't do it right the first time, it's one thing to say you got to come in and you got to check it once and it's right and it's okay, if we understand that. But then And it's not like if you have one or two things, you said that there's 700 items here. And even if it's not 700, even if it's only 500 items. all right,
Lot of items.
That's not
Right,
That's not in the realm of reason here, at least in the way you all have described some of the things, generic terms to me. It's not like those, whatever, so.
yeah.
Seems
Some
like-
are more serious items than others that are on the list,
Anyway, what we're saying is we don't want to keep having to do this, just to have all these people meeting to be meeting if they can't figure it out. And at some point, they need to be reimbursing us for the cost of that stuff. And if, especially if we're gonna have to come back a second and third time, because it's just not happening. To me, I mean, because I think we're stewards of the community. We can't just allow this to go on.
well, some of these things, obviously, the project was supposed to be done last fall, and some of these things that are delayed, and it's not all the mechanical problem either. There are other things that the architect is still listing as items that they will be working on, so the fabric wrap panels and the landscaping, and those are the two big things, and the doors, but obviously the doors are finally going in, so it's just slower than everybody thought it would be to finish.
Oh, yeah, but we're not talking about landscape things because of whether we do that, we knew about the doors, we knew about that stuff. We're talking about the things that the mechanicals, when we aren't working right, they put them on and they install them properly. I mean, that's my understanding. There's things that were just not done right. And not just one or two things that weren't done wrong, as you point out. There's hundreds of things by this one particular contractor.
Well, I mean, that's up to you all, if you want to approve this or not, or if you want to.
Perhaps I could just help you out here.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a process set up under the contract for resolving these kinds of disputes. I believe that they're going through that process right now.
Who's they?
They, meaning the executive director and her staff, and Bully and Andrews, and the architect, and the engineer. Isn't that the purpose of all these meetings, to try to work through, because there's what they call a problem-solving process in the contract that you do to identify the problems and then figure out how you're gonna address them. And then there can be chargebacks. There's a retainage that hasn't been released yet to this contractor. So they're not at that point yet where they're gonna start assessing costs.
So there's a possibility we'll get some reimbursement for some of these.
Or not be charged for the corrections. That, we don't want to be charged for corrections if it was their mistake.
I think it isn't what's before you now paying the architect and engineer some more money to go through this process.
Yes, that's what this
Okay.
is.
The contractor itself is not getting extra money to
No.
correct its work.
No.
And there's a retainage for that contractor that hasn't been released.
Right,
Okay.
they
and-
haven't been fully paid their whole contract yet.
And there's still, the purpose of having all these meetings is to work through the scenario under the contract to identify the problems, get them corrected, and then figure out how to assess the costs. Not figure out, to assess the costs. So they're not at that point yet.
And the punch list also is very old. So this is 700 items, but the vast majority of them they didn't even need correction, they just weren't complete yet.
Right, they
And they
came
are
too
now
soon.
complete. So when we go through the list, it's really, we're narrowing down to less than 20% that need to be talked through. And those that do need to be talked through, many of them are completed. There's only a handful that really, there's a difference of opinion about how it should be finalized.
Right,
So it sounds a lot worse than it is.
I know, it's a scary number, 700 items, but it is getting smaller, the list.
We have to go ahead and pay the people to go through the process.
Since they've already, yes.
Really don't have a choice. Well, I mean, we do have a choice, but the best choice is to go ahead and do it quick.
Are we ready to call for a vote at this point? We have a motion and a second and discussion. All right, Alan,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
John,
Hi.
and I also approve. Thank you. I think it's a valuable discussion, and we'll see what comes up next month,
Yeah.
if anything. Okay. Item C, public policy manual change.
Sarah would like to speak about that.
Sarah.
So we're recommending that we reduce our faxing fee from $1 per page down to 25 cents per page, which will help people who oftentimes they come and they need to print an item and then fill it out and then fax it back to a social service agency. So this will let them do everything, and also it will encourage people to get a library card if they don't have it already, because it will better fit into the $5 free printing, faxing, and scanning that they get per day. So we think this will be really life-changing to a lot of people who come in. And this is not always their best day, is when they have, if you have to fax something, it's never your best day. And so I think this will give them a little lift.
Is this service available at all the branches?
Yes.
And this is, as you said, primarily for people who have a 10-page form to fax and ends up costing them $5 because they exceed their $5 fee and they don't have it.
Exactly.
Very good.
And it doesn't cost us much to fax anymore, so might as well pass that along.
Well, do I have a motion to approve the change in the fax fee to 25 cents?
I assume that the reason we're charging them this much is because we don't want people coming in and doing hundreds of things. Because it doesn't really, I mean, once you put something on the fax machine,
It goes pretty quickly.
it's automatic. I mean,
This is
yeah.
on par with how much we charge for printing and things like that, so it covers our costs.
Right.
Because it's 17 cents per page to fax, so it at least covers that and then gives us just a little bit extra.
Oh, it does cost us,
Yes.
you all figure, you all think our actual cost is 17 cents a page.
Yes, we just figured that out.
Kelly
not too
commented.
long ago.
With our service machine.
When we first bought those machines, they were so expensive. I think we charged $1 at the time per page because we felt like we had to recoup the cost of the machines. They were quite expensive.
Very expensive, and also that was the charge of the community tended to
Right.
charge that much.
For
and the
fax.
costs have gone down.
Little thermal paper.
Well, when we're faxing, we're not printing stuff out, we're just faxing. I mean,
We're just
Right.
thinking that.
so I move that we approve this policy change.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Alan,
Aye.
Anne, John,
Aye.
and I also approve. So it is approved. Now let's talk about my favorite subject, food. Menu pricing for St. Joe Coffee Company. And the board is asked today, and we all got part of it in our package, of the pricing for our current cafe items.
So you have that list and the memo from Kelly about it. And did you want to share anything more, Kelly, than what you had in there?
Yes, as you know, that some of the things we're doing here are a little bit revolutionary. So when talking to State Board of Accounts, we do know that we always have to have fees approved, but the fluidity of this kind of thing is a little different for libraries and the audit team that we get. So we know that pricing's fluctuating a lot on food, so we asked in that we don't bring it back unless it's more than a 10% increase. And we'll see where we land with audit. They didn't say no, if that wasn't allowed. So I think we're in good shape, at least getting the prices as they are today approved. If we have anything that's major, we'll bring it back. We're hoping that no more price items, those are changing almost daily.
Well, I understand the pricing for the current list of items, but what about adding items?
We have a line in there, Christine, I just remembered.
Okay, good.
The addition of new menu items will follow the same pricing structure. So we'll be basing the new items that we add to the menu on what these were priced at.
We'd only have to, at least we think, come back if it was something like that was a different line of items. So you were saying earlier.
What about sandwich, soup and sandwich? Yeah.
Because we have similar things, but let's say we started selling T-shirts, then we would
Oh.
come back to you.
Well, so what does it mean when we say under the various amounts, it says variable? Because it sounds like so variable means you're not setting a price for this.
Well, SERPs and things like that, and Lisa could probably answer that a little bit better, but some of those things.
I mean, I like that idea because it seems like you all decided with the Board of Accounts that you don't have to set a price for that.
That I don't know. That
So
is
that-
not,
that would
that would
variable
be Board
mean-
of Accounts. It's more of a food type issue, I think that.
So we're not charging extra for the milk, but we've added them into the register because,
Oh,
the
okay.
register does reporting, so that will allow us to see, how much.
So
milk is
variable
being
means it's not
used.
really, we're not charging for that.
It's like a placeholder.
Got it.
The registers do help us. It's really nice. It helps us keep inventory and eventually will allow us to do ordering and things like that. So. We're getting out of my wheelhouse a little bit to Lisa, so.
So I don't have any idea. Is this basically what is being charged?
So we did, so we went to the cafes nearby and documented their prices. And so we didn't want to, we kind of kept it somewhere, but actually a little less, maybe closer to Starbucks. Some of the specialty shops do charge quite a bit for theirs. We did want to make it accessible to our patrons.
I move that we approve.
Well, wait, I just wanted to say, I don't know if we can approve this until we had a chance to taste them. I read the books, I listened to the.
Currently, they're not open on Monday right now. So that's a problem. Yeah.
Okay, but I want to make sure that the motion is presented as stated. Maybe if you look under Kelly's memo.
Yeah, so I move
Okay.
that we approve the menu pricing for St. Joe Coffee Company as set forth below. And I also move that we permit them to allow substitutions and adjustments in pricing as necessary not to exceed 10%. And I also move that the coffee companies be allowed to add new menu items following the same pricing structure as in the current menu. I think that's what you said. And then any pricing adjustments, say 10%, should be brought to the board for approval prior to implementation. All this stuff in your memo, Tricia and Ted.
That's the motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, thank you. Are there further? Is there further discussion?
No, I'm just reading it.
This is new. I mean, they're learning.
Right.
Well,
We are
in the automotive supply business, what we did was lost money on every part, but made it up in volume.
There you go.
Oh, no, the more you sell, the more you lose. Anyway, no, that is not what we're doing here. We're at least covering costs, building business, and maybe over time, we might see the need to increase. Yeah, well, we definitely need to increase hours. I want to make it a place that people don't come to the door and say, oh, it's closed. So, yes.
I agree.
Yes. Any other further discussion? Okay, thank you very much. With that, I'll call for a vote. Alan,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you very much. Okay. Page 2 of my agenda. Okay. E is the purchase of gift cards for programming incentives.
Yes, so every year we use gift cards when people sign up for summer reading and for other programs. And Kelly has formalized the purchase of these gift cards in her memo. Is there anything, Kelly, that you need to point out?
As you're aware, audits are moved towards internal controls over the last several years, and gift cards are perceived as cash by the Board of Accounts. So they just ask if you're using them for programming needs that you put language in here that they actually have given us that says they'll be used purchased for programming, we're just gonna log them and we don't use them to, pay staff, essentially.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion.
I would so move that we approve the gift card policy.
Thank you. Second?
Okay.
Okay, any other further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Alan?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I also approve. Our next item is the library board resolution to declare excess withdrawn library materials.
I move we adopt the library board resolution to declare excess withdrawn library materials. It's a fourth of the packet.
Trish, did you want to expand on that anyway? Because you said that there's more this round.
They've broken the list up in the IT department when you get to the section on the computer parts that are for sale. So they're selling some to the Friends to resell there. But then there's also a list of items to be declared excess for recycle only. So those wouldn't be sold by the Friends.
As you described them as parts and pieces.
Yes, lots of parts and pieces no one would want to buy.
Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Alan, Anne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you very much. We've gotten to the point of other business, and I'm wondering if we want to say a sentence or two about our search for a new director, and just, this is going to be very brief and people can fill in. As you know, we've hired a firm, and the firm narrowed down the choices, and we will be interviewing candidates next week. And I think that's about what we're saying. Would you like to add anything, anybody?
That's where we are.
That's where we are, okay. Okay, I just wanted to make people aware that we're transparent, right? We want to be transparent.
Well, I think you'll know and talking to the staff about when they'll be around and how all of that will work,
Right.
so. They'll each be here for their own day.
Yes, yes. And the other business is, and I'm only saying this because I've been on the board so long, and John would probably say, yes, we have been. Normally, historically, we always did our volunteer appreciation activities in May. And I'm told that it's going to happen a little later in the year so that we can in fact use our gardens and have an outside event. Does anybody would you like to add to that, or?
Well, for the past 2 years, we've had very limited. Oh, I'm sorry. No. I just assumed you were talking to me. We've had limited volunteers on site. For the past 2 years, because of COVID, we were limiting the number of people in the building. As things have lightened up, we've started to bring folks back. We had hoped to have a big welcome back for Science Alive and then had to pull back on that as well. So I think we're looking more at a big welcome back event as opposed, which would be included in the appreciation, but we're gonna do it a little later in the year than we have in the past.
Does that bring us to the ribbon cutting that we didn't mention?
We did talk about it. May 20th.
Okay,
You wrote it in your calendar.
I know I wrote it in my calendar, okay. All right, so we're all set. With that, I'm going to ask, do we have any visitors who signed up to speak? Okay, so there are no members of the public invited to address the board, so we can move on from that. Any news and educational items that you would like to bring up, please?
You'll find in your packet many reports from the PLA conference that we sent 7 people to. Most of them are in this room. But yeah, they all, brought back some real exciting things. We had a debrief with the staff on it, and they have some good items for you to read in there. Is this where we ask the Friends of the Library representative to speak to us?
We haven't done that for a long time.
There's a real stand-up podium attached to Rachel's. There we go. Oh, we have a show, okay. Will Terry be able to see it?
Well, yeah, Lisa, I'm gonna have Lisa join and then share.
Oh, okay, you guys figured it out.
Okay, so I'm here with Matt Sis, who is the president of the Friends Board. And we're here to share with you all a little more about the Friends. So I will start the presentation.
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think.
You're the best friend, or they have one friend?
He's the best friend.
Pretty cool.
The first friend.
The first friend?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and then.
This way.
Oh, yeah.
I know for my next.
Okay, so I'll just give an overview of the Friends, and then I'll hand it off to Matt after that. So the Friends Group is a 501c3 organization. And in the bylaws, it states its purpose, which is to advocate for the library and its interests, to develop supplemental funding for the library, and to sponsor or support programs that further library objectives. The Friends was formed in 1982. The first project was to circulate petitions in favor of construction of new branches. And their main activity was to sell withdrawn books through the book sales. And until relatively recently, the Friends was also a membership organization. Members would pay an annual fee and they would get special privileges at the book sale. So in the past 10 years, the book sale has changed significantly. The book sale is now held weekly rather than just occasionally throughout the year. And with that change came a steep decline in the memberships because the special sale privileges were no longer given. So because of that, we discontinued the program. And it was also an opportunity to rewrite the bylaws at that same time as there were major changes happening. So the bylaws were rewritten and simplified the Friends structure. It increased the frequency of meetings to promote engagement, and then it allowed for the creation of task force for special initiatives. And this is also when the Friends began changing its direction to more fundraising activities. So every year, the Friends allocates revenue to SJCPL programs, development and marketing costs, and for educational assistance. And this year, the Friends allocated $40,000 to support SJCPL. The funding came from the book sale, revenue from the book sale, but that will inevitably decline since with purchasing fewer books, that means we're withdrawing fewer, that means there's fewer to sell. So the Friends is now working with the development office on more fundraising activities. So the development office serves as a liaison between the Friends and the library. So the development office guides the Friends in their fundraising activities. So there's just that close alignment. So for instance, I'll attend all of the meetings, all of the task force meetings, and plan with them and share with them the vision and the goal for the library. The Friends assist with in-kind donation solicitations, donor events, and also with spreading the word through their network whenever there is a campaign. A neat thing is that they can support us just being a 501c3, since the library isn't a 501c3. While we can still apply for most grants, sometimes there are grants out there that are very strict about only getting applicants who have the 501c3 status. And that's something the Friends has. And so they approved us going through them to go for grants. So we can write the grant, share the application with them, and put them down as the applicant. So it's a good pathway that they can support us. So they've been a major source of support for development. They can provide the backup at events or be hand in hand with us planning. And we're really looking forward to the Friends growing in its role.
Thanks. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about the structure of the Friends Board. We have, where our bylaws allow for 10 to 15 board members. We're currently at 10 like for the moment. We had a few more at the start of the year that retired. So we're sort of at our minimum. The main officers are a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. The bylaws state that we don't have to have a treasurer. The president can take over that if there's not a willing volunteer. We meet every 2 months with our annual meeting in May. The main additional thing on the annual meeting is we elect new officers. So that's when we do our new push. So we're coming up on that next month. Other than that, a lot of our actual main work happens in a series of task forces that sort of generally happen in the off month from the every other month meeting. The main ones are recruitment, where we're looking for new Friends members, for people who look at their connections and sort of find out who might be a good fit or who might be able to help support the Friends mission. And then we have a fundraising committee as well. It's probably the most active of the task forces, particularly around either helping plan new events or think about other streams for revenue for the library. And part of that is a few different things that we've done in the past year that have been sort of fitting into the new direction for the Friends Board. Last year we did what was called the Good Neighbor Fund. It was a designed event to be sort of day of giving for library fundraising, to support a lot of the initiatives that the community needed during COVID. So it was on Friday, October 23rd last year, and basically we partnered with a series of local businesses, Zinco 5, Brewworks, Sugar Cafe, J2 Marketing, plus another anonymous donor, to give a percentage of sales that they mentioned in the library on a given day back to the Friends to then support things like hotspot circulation, outdoor Wi-Fi, and some digital equity initiatives for the library. Other things that we do mainly are the summer reading challenge. We're the ones that for the last couple of years have helped solicit a lot of the in-kind donations from local businesses. So we'll send a lot of emails and make a lot of phone calls and drop by places asking if they can give a gift card, things like that for the summer reading challenge. From that project thing we've raised last year. This year we're still in the process of going through it all. Last year we raised about $10,000 in in-kind gifts from community and a few national businesses as well. The other big thing we did was the donor party. This was the preview party that happened right before the main branch opened last year. We had 163 donors, raised about $20,000 from there. We had drinks, hors d'oeuvres, all sorts of a nice event for donors. And then we're planning something similar for this year, some sort of donor event that's sort of the process of being planned. And that sort of leads into our goals for the future, to continue a lot of this sort of fundraising role that we've played for the last year or so, including the new donor events and a few other things that are kind of in the works. And I think probably one of the other big things that we're keen to do is grow the Friends Board a little bit. We've historically trended older and of a certain demographics. So we're really trying to reach out to other communities that are impacted and benefit from the library, make sure we have a wide variety of voices on the board. Like I said, we're in the process of sort of recruiting people for the board individuals. We're hoping to get another 5 or 6 people to vote on at the next meeting. That, I think, is everything that we have gone over. Lisa, what did I forget?
I think you covered it.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you very much.
You know, I'm a lover of the Friends Board, and though I wasn't on it since 1982, I was on it for a long time, from 1990 to probably till I started on this board. So yes, do wonderful things, and your volunteers are wonderful. So
Thank you so much. Yeah.
kudos to the Friends. Any questions?
So is there a website for the Friends?
We have a page through the library page now. I have not looked at it, so I don't know what's on
So
there.
like, are the members of the board and everybody on that?
We have a plan for, so our May annual meeting. we're gonna
Could you,
do-
I'm just curious, could you maybe the next month, or maybe just email, I think you do great work, and I like to, if I see people, I'd like to thank them. So could you send the board maybe just a list of the names of the
Yeah.
officers and directors of the Friends? I'd love to know where they are. So we thank them.
Dedicated group, yeah.
I'd love to.
Friends of Friends.
So we can be friends with the Friends.
Yeah.
We want to be best friends.
And maybe if you reach out to us about what you're looking for in terms of recruitment and demographics.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Um,
As you might imagine, we have a spreadsheet
yes.
of everything. We'd be happy to share.
And they have a new person managing the Friends sale now, as of last week or April 8th.
Yeah.
Marty retired, so now we have a new employee.
Martha instead of.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Well, could you tell us, so the donor party last year raised $20,000, which is great. And do you think a part of that was just because, I mean, do you think that's something that can be easily, or how did you all, I mean, was it 1 or 2 donors that actually did that, or did you all charge a certain amount for, what did we?
I believe it was above $50 donation was invited to the free lunch tour and cocktail event.
So people were just told that, and once they got the invitation, it said that we got that much and people that responded and said, yes, we would like to, did they buy tickets, or did they just make donations?
It was part of our, so we have end of year giving, that campaign, and we sent a direct mailer out to anyone who's donated in the past few years. So for last year, we included that option of donating at $50 or more, and you can also come to the donor party. And so what we were hoping was people would increase their donation, or it would be the incentive to donate. So we knew that it was partially to bring in funds, but also to as an engagement of our donors, because never before had we done an event like this. We've done trivia nights, which were open to the public to register to, but it actually did not attract our donors. The people who would come to the trivia nights they would get their table and then they wouldn't donate in any other way. But this event engaged donors who give more frequently. They're loyal donors every year. And so it was a way to make that connection with them that we hadn't in the past.
Great.
Yeah, for replicating that kind of thing, I think it had a lot of buzz because it was the first time people could see the building. And I think that's kind of the challenge that we're going through now, is how to make it attractive enough to bring people in at hopefully a similar level without building a whole other building.
No, it'll be a garden party, yeah. Building garden party, yes.
The ROI on that.
Thank you very much.
So I'm unclear, do you still have members who pay a membership fee?
We do not. No.
Okay, so you got rid of that.
Yeah,
So
when we got rid of it, I think we had 5 that were still paying the fee, and we thought it would be better just to roll that into the donation.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you came. Thank you.
Yes.
Glad you're
Make
there.
sure you
yes.
put us on your, get us up. I assume we all got, I don't remember get up for your donor party.
I don't, the new one has not come out yet.
But I don't think I don't know much about that. Get up last year.
Oh, yeah.
You should make sure you ask board members and past board members, because we're all obviously very interested.
Yeah.
Did you all get the spring appeal?
Just came.
Oh, we may not have straight deal, but I mean.
That just came on this week.
Then just to check to make sure that our, mailing list is
Right.
sending us the right people. So.
All right, well, thank you. As you can see from the agenda, our next meeting is a closed meeting following this meeting. And next month we will meet on Monday, May 23rd in this room. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, I will call for the roll. Alan? Anne? John?
Aye.
And I also approve. Thank you all for coming. Delight to have seen you. Thank you.
Thanks.